I also ask that you look out for yourself and you look out for others. And don't be afraid to share this information. So the 4 pillars of wellness for warriors. The physical. Well, we're talking about getting some physical activity. I think we can all agree. We all feel better when we're doing something physical. We're able to get some kind of physical activity. May it be running, going to the gym, lifting weights, going for walks, whatever. But to do something physical helps. Secondly, let's talk about the spiritual. And spiritual, I'm just not talking about going to church or being a faith-based person. I'm talking about something that will help you cope or deal with stress. We know that these are very stressful jobs, and we'll get into the stress component in just a second. But you need some way to be resilient, some way to cope. For some people, that may be reading. For some people, that may be cooking. We have Mike Brown here from Cox, who gives his presentation often. He talks about how cooking has helped him realign himself and help him to be grounded and able to deal with things after a hard day. So I think you get the idea what I'm talking about on the spiritual. On the mental and the emotional, you need to listen to yourself. If you feel yourself coming off the rails, go for help. And that's why it's so important to have a buddy. You're part of a team. If you're part of the military, you're part of a military organization, we all take pride in looking out for each other. If you're part of a first responder unit, I know how closely you all work together. So you need to look out for each other. And sometimes a simple hi, how you doing, can go a long way. So what are the barriers to folks going out and getting help? Cultural, lack of awareness, and pragmatic. The cultural. Now I can tell you in 1984, when I was a 28-year-old lieutenant in the United States Navy, I developed a drinking problem. And I was lucky, and I drank to deal with stress. I was stressed out because I was deploying a lot. I was going to sea and doing courts martial and administrative discharge boards, and I felt like I was trying to get by on roller skates. I felt like I never had a chance to stop and take a breath. And I tried to cope with my stress by drinking. And I developed a problem, which was in my family a bit. And I was able to go to friends, and I was able to deal with the demons, and I handled it in my own way. So that's the first thing. Don't think you're so tough that you don't need help. The other thing is, in terms of cultural bias, I know that at that time, I felt like if I went and sought any professional help, or if I went through Navy channels seeking help, it would impact my career. I might lose my security clearance, word might get out I had a problem, and I wouldn't have a chance of getting promoted. And that drove it. Nowadays, that's not the case. There's protections in place to make sure that you get the help you need, and it's not going to impact your career. Secondly is a lack of awareness. There's this feeling of shame or guilt that you have a problem. Well, many of these things are an illness, not unlike getting the flu or a physical condition, breaking your ankle or whatever. You need help. Please go get the help. There is no shame, there is no guilt to be associated with it. Then the last thing is the pragmatic. The time invested in getting help, the cost invested in getting help. Well, I can tell you if you're a military vet, you call 1-800-273-TALK and the Veterans Administration is going to help you. If you're an employee of Cox Hospital, there's an employee assistance program, which you can contact at 1-800-269-6022. That's 1-800-269-6022. And you're entitled to talk to a counselor up to 5 times to help you with your problem. So there are ways out there where you can get help. But most importantly, please speak up, and people are going to get you help. You need to look out for others, and you need to look out for yourselves. I'll repeat that again. So why are first responders and vets at such a risk? Well, number one is the stress associated with it. What did I deal with on active duty? I was sending, as the Assistant Judge Advocate General of the Navy, I was sending lawyers and legal men to Iraq when the IEDs were at their glory, when it was a terrible problem for us to deal with. And that sure weighed on my mind, but it especially weighed on those poor guys who were going down range. So you're dealing with death, injury, excuse me, the fact you're isolated, you're away from your families, and so on and so forth. And then the second problem is the demanding schedule. When you're in the military, you're first responder, your life isn't your own, you work 12, 14-hour days. And all that weighs on you and results in emotional trauma. When you incur this emotional trauma, it can develop into PTSD or something else. And that's why the focus has to be on our warriors and our first responders, because They're placed in these situations more than virtually anyone else. Okay, so when I was on active duty and I was the Assistant Judge Advocate General of the Navy, I had 500 enlisted, 800 officers, and 600 civilians working for me. So how did I make sure that they were all doing okay? Well, number one, I got away from my desk and I traveled and I visited with them. I got to know their commanding officers and their executive officers very well. I made it a priority for them to walk around, to lead by walking around. Walk around and get to know your people. I mean, get to know them, talk to them, they're people. And if you get to know them, then you'll see the warning signs. You'll see if someone's behavior has changed, or if someone's really depressed or morose or having a terrible time one day. And you'll be able to interject yourself and help in that situation. So let's talk a second about 9/11 and first responders. So I was in the Pentagon 9/11. I got blown out of there like everybody else. I'm lucky the bomb came on the opposite side of the building. We felt a concussion. I went out of my chair. We all looked at each other. We said we got hit. We had learned of the World Trade Center about 10 minutes earlier, and we walked out the door. I saw the incredible bravery, first of all, of the Arlington, Virginia Police Department. We didn't have much of an armory at the Pentagon, from what I could tell. It was Arlington, Virginia cops and the FBI who came down the hill, down to the Pentagon, from Arlington, Virginia to the Pentagon, with weapons to provide support, to protect us in case there was some other assault coming. It was the Arlington, Virginia Fire Department and then other locales who sent their first responders to care for those who were injured. Besides the fact that we had a clinic right there in the Pentagon, it wasn't nearly big enough to deal with what happened. 159 people perished and hundreds were injured by the blast. But I saw the courage of those first responders, and I said to myself, these first responders, these EMTs, these firemen, these policemen, they're warriors too. They're on the front line of this new war in this new age, and we need to look out for them too. I had a brother-in-law who was a fireman in the Arlington, Virginia Fire Department, and I remember when he launched into action in 1982 when the Air Florida crashed into the bridge in Washington, D.C. over the Potomac River. And it takes a lot of courage and a lot of guts to go out there and be a first responder and do these things. And what we need them in order for our society to work and for us to be able to help one another. So let's talk about discharge. So I retired from the Navy. So, okay, how did I stay connected? Well, number one, the Veterans Administration is not going to abandon you. And number two, if you're an employee of Cox Health, they're not going to abandon you. But number three, this country isn't going to abandon you. There are, as I've talked about already, there are places where you can go to help. But you need to speak up. And I would ask people to reach out to those who have retired or have left the employment of a certain place and make sure they're doing well. So let me leave you with a few important phone numbers again. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-TALK. Cox employees, you need help. The Employee Assistance Plan, 1-800-269-6022. Or email wellnessforwarriors@coxhealth.com. And Wellness for Warriors has more activities and events than just this Friday morning meeting at 9 o'clock here at the beautiful Meyer Health Center. On Mondays, there's a yoga session at noon. On Wednesdays, there's guitar therapy at 315 at Drury. Then they have other peer-to-peer contact events. There's one coming up tomorrow at Bear Chapel on the campus of Missouri State. I would encourage you to go to the Wellness for Warriors website. Just type Wellness for Warriors in Google. It'll come right up. Click on it. You'll see where all these great events are. It is a privilege and an honor to try to be a part of this wonderful organization and to help folks. And I hope you have found my 10 minutes with you today to have been meaningful. And if we can help, remember, just go to wellnessforwarriors@coxhealth.com or put Wellness for Warriors in Google and help will be on the way. Thank you.